Hello, welcome to this video. In this one we're going to be going over SUID. It's just a new topic for you, or if you're new to Linux you're probably not going to know what this is. We're going to go over that now. And all this essentially is using privileged processes to escalate into, well, typically be a root user, basically. Let's go right into it. So before we can start exploiting it, well, security as a principle, you need to know how things are built, how they work, before you can start exploiting them and find weaknesses, things like that. It's just basic security stuff. So what actually is SUID? Set user ID allows non-owner users to execute the file with equal privileges as the owner of the file. This is that can lead to privilege escalation. One thing to be aware of: just because a process you found has the SUID bit or SGID or sticky bit set, does not mean you can escalate privileges. That's something to be aware of. It just means that it's more likely than others, essentially. Likewise, a process without its SUID being set can be more vulnerable. It all depends on the situation and what's in your box. SGID, set group ID, acts the same as SUID, allowing users to inherit privileges of the group who owns that file and directory. We're not going to be covering escalation from SGID or sticky bit. It's slightly similar, but we're not going to be covering that in this course. We're just going over SUIDs. Finally, the sticky bit can only be set once on directories. It limits the ability to remove or rename files within the directory to that of the file owner. These are all useful features of the Linux file system. These exist to make things easier for administrators, or just to sort of limit access control, things like that. But like anything that exists for a good reason, you can also use it for a bad reason as well. So if you don't understand Linux file permissions, here's a little chart I'm going to go over now very quickly, just to demonstrate. Later on in the video we'll be going over a visual demonstration, so if you're quite new to this and you don't understand Linux at all, don't worry, we'll go over them. So when you display in Linux a file or directory's permission types, it comes in three parts. So you have the owner, the group, and the user. So the what's left on my cursor now, this is the permissions of the file owner, what they can do. Typically they'll have full access, they'll do whatever. The group that owner is in, that is what they can do, and then finally the user. Oh, sorry, not user, just everyone. So if you're not in that group and you're not the owner of the file, it's what everyone can do. Very rarely, in a lot of systems, it's quite locked down, you won't get many permissions on what everyone can do, depending on the system, things like that. All the S, and T mean in this case is, if you see a S in the owner privileges, that just means that the sticky bit has been set, and that the process is SUID. In the group section of CNS, that just means that the SGUID bit is set. And finally, the T for everyone, that means that the program is sticky. As you can see here, S in the owner permissions indicates the SUID bit is set, and S in the group permissions indicates the SUID bit is set, and so on. What we've just gone over essentially. That's the basic premise of it. That is how you will want to find these binaries, things like that you can potentially exploit. You'll basically just look at the privileges of it, and you will see what's there and what isn't. So if it's not set, then you know it's not going to be vulnerable to SUID escalation. If it is set, it very well might be. So again, payloads, all things coming in clutch. Searching for SUID binaries. These two commands are going to search for the binaries on your system that are running. If their SUID bit has been set, it just checks the permission type on the processes, and it'll display them out to you. So it says here, other SUID exploitation methods do exist, shared objects injection, but they're not going to be covered on this course. As I link down all my videos, I've not taken this course, but I know they're covered there. TCM Security, Ninja of a bloke, go watch his course. He covers a lot more SUID related exploits, and in general you can research these. They're on payloads, all things like that. You can look at them yourself and try and have a look at other ways of doing so. If people do want that knowledge, things like that, if people like it, then just leave a comment, things like that, and I'll look it up and go over it, things like that. So finally, once you've found a binary that has an SUID bit set, use GTFO bins, use other resources, and do your research. Check and see if they're on there, and if they are capable of being exploited from SUID. As it says there, the bins are your friend, so don't just when you see something, don't just think, oh, I'll try and well, whatever you're thinking of doing, just check on GTFO bins first. If you can't see it on there, very likely isn't. Doesn't mean just chin it off. Go Google, have a research or a poke around, see what else is there. Finally, as well, if any file names stick out, search them globally. Don't stick to certain resources. What I've just said. Don't just use GTFO bins. Use Google. That's what it's for. It's a search engine. Use every resource at your disposal to try and escalate privileges from SUID and in general. So here's an example of the two commands that I've just shown. They're basically doing the same thing. One, they're just printing out the file permissions with it. So all these are going to tell you are what binaries have the SUID bit set. And this bottom one here, we'll be going over that a little bit later. That's some of the privilege escalation way in through system mounts, but we'll go over that later in the course. So what you would do now, when you're going through your list, personally I would have GTFO bins up next to it, just like this, and just have a look, go through the list and see which ones are there, see if anything sticks out, see if any of them look better than the others. One thing to look out for is not necessarily your typical Linux binary, things like that, simple password. You're probably not going to find an SUID exploit on very common Linux like base binaries. It all depends on your Linux version, but if you're on the most recent updated version, it's probably not going to happen. But where you will find it on is, for instance, anything with version numbers in, anything that is not default to Linux that pops up, that should definitely pique your interest and prick your ears up. So just going through here, there's nothing that particularly catches my eye. Obviously I'm sure some of these will probably be vulnerable to it, but there's nothing that's like or for example Hack5 programs like this that aren't default to Linux. Like these are the ones I would be checking out. I've already done a lot of these, for example sudo and chsh, things like that. I probably they would be the last ones that I check, because I've already, from experience, I've seen that there's not too much available for those sort of applications. But in your case, if you've got non-default binaries on there, I'd 100% be looking at them. It could be a very easy way in for you to escalate privileges. And as I've said, so if you, let's say, click on SUID and we have a look, let's say we had AWK. So we've seen it's got the SUID binary set. If the binary is SUID bit set, it does not drop the elevated privileges and may be abused to access the file system, escalate or maintain privilege access as an SUID backdoor. So obviously here's your little payload for it, and what you'd run to potentially get SUID privilege escalation.